Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're going to be carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, what we did on the last episode is that we did a very simple switch here on our player that goes to female to male, and then it changes back to male with the different colors. So what I'm going to be doing here today is that we're going to be now finally combining the UI with our functions on our player, so we can start to change the characters. I'll start to type press on the buttons. All right, so let's do that stuff right here. So the first thing we're gonna do is that on the character creator, we're gonna delete all this stuff because it's gonna be dynamic. We don't need to worry about this, right? And now we can close all this stuff. And I'm gonna go back to my game mode, character creator. And here I'm going to open up my widget. I'm going to open up here. Right. Now, here, if you guys remember, right, if you guys remember what we did, is that we have our component here, right? We're not using our component, but if you remember that component, we're passing now as part of our component, the component on the widget, we're passing as part of our component. So now we can use that information to start to change the player. And right, to do that, what I'm going to do here is, by the way, one very useful trick here, if, for example, you close everything here, just go and double click on the event graph. But anyway, on our event graph, what we would like to do is to go back to our color selection here. And we need now to basically identify what color we're trying to change. What's the material that we're trying to do. So now what we have to do here is that we need to identify, okay, I'm clicking on the material X, and I want to make sure that it gets the material from the array. It changed my character color, and then we apply that on the player. So to do that, what we're going to do is that we already have the material that we want to change here. And if you kind of do a print screen, you should be able to see that we have the color, right? And you have 0, blah, 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 and that represents the color that we want to change. All right, so what we need to do here is that we need to get our character component creator, right? We need to get our player controller. From our player controller reference, we can get the POM ref, right? And now, look at this. This is the cool part. We can get the API, and then we can call the player change player color, right? Now we can do something like that. And if we're done everything right, we should be able to change the player color like that. And as you can see, this is finally working. We finally managed to put the UI, we managed to do everything working properly, right? So one thing that we need to keep in mind here, guys, is that this will run on the client, right? So because it runs on the client, we don't really need to care about replicate, and we don't need to deal with servers because we're going to store the information on our database, all right? So since we don't have to do that, and we're gonna load things on the fly, we can just leave the way it is. We don't need to save this. We don't need to create or access those methods in the controller and replicate on the client because this is running locally. So there's one thing that we need to understand as well when we're trying to create an MMO. There's a couple of things that you have to understand. The first thing is that you have the client. So the client's what runs on your machine, is where you have all your graphics and you change and you do all sorts of things, is what you interact with. That client sends information to the server, and that server, in this case, is a database where we're saving the data, right? I haven't got to that part yet, but we're going to be using programming language. It's going to be super easy, don't worry about it, but we're going to save that on the database using MySQL. We're going to use APIs to load the data back. But the thing that you have to understand here is that we are only playing with the client. We're going to save this data on the client, right? So to do that now, the next thing we have to do now is just to make sure we can change our character here. So I'm gonna go back here. We're gonna go back to the gender selection here. Great. And we're gonna just get our player, get the controller, and then here we need to get the pawn. Get the pawn player reference. And this is to change the gender. So you're gonna do the API change gender. And this is gonna be plugged. Well, we do have the gender. I'm just gonna put the gender right there. And let's see if that's gonna work. All right. Female, male. And now we can change the colors. Great. And now let's just do the last one, which is the hair, right? Nothing complicated. Again, we get this. We're gonna get the class name, or sorry, get the pawn, player pawn. No. Get the controller. From the controller, we're gonna get the pawn. Now, all you gotta do here is that you need to call the API change player hair. Right, now, here's the thing. If you run, like, okay, you do that, and then you press play, and if you switch to female, and then you change the hair, it will work, but it's not the right type. It's not the right hair, right? It's not the right hair that we're trying to set up. Because as you can see, our female model has a different hair than the male model. So we kind of need to start to store that data somewhere. And here's where we need to get introduced to maybe a way to store this data properly. Right. So what we are going to do here is that we're going to create a structure that we're going to be using on our save system that we can reload that data properly when we press play, when we do all sorts of things on the game. So what we're going to do here is that for now, you already have everything done. We just need to come back to this in a second. I'm going to close that UI, and I am going to go here to the blueprints, game mode, character creator. I'm going to go back to variables. And actually, no, I'm going to go back to the character creation. I'm going to create here a new blueprint class, a new folder. And I'm going to call this Savegame, all right? And then in here, I'm going to create one very simple thing here. I'm going to go back to blueprint, and I think I can search for Savegame. So I'm going to create a save object, right? I'm going to create a version of a save object. And basically this class is what we're going to use to when we save the game. And anyway, we're going to create a child class to this. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to press select. And now I'm going to call this BP save game. And I'm gonna put a prefix, and I think I'm probably gonna call this player appearance, right? There we go. That's what we're gonna do here. Now I'm gonna open up my player appearance, and here is where I would like to store some data. Now we have a little bit of a problem here, which we're trying to figure out, is that I don't want to repeat code. I don't want to, having to deal with multiple saving objects and things that I have to pass from here to that and do all sorts. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a folder where I am going to basically put this folder on the parent, where I'm going to call this player variables. And then inside these folders, I'm going to have the save objects and the structure. And that's where I'm going to have all my player health, all my player appearance, all my player stats, all my player items, and all that stuff. I'm going to be using a bunch of different saves to combine everything together. but we doing this way, it's a little bit more complicated than rather than put these variables on the player, but we gain some, let's say, consistency, right? So what we're gonna do here is then we are gonna go back to the save game, and I'm just gonna move this on the blueprints. Actually, I'm gonna move this to the game mode, move it there, and in here I have save game. Now I'm gonna right click here and I'm gonna create here save objects, right? Save objects, and I'm gonna move this inside save objects. And now I'm gonna create here a new variable called player structure or player variables. Right. The reason why I'm putting this in two different folders is just because I know that one folder is my only save objects and my other folder is my player variables. In this way, I don't have to I don't get lost on my project. Right. So now that we have this stuff created, we are gonna open up the player variables. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna create here a structure. I'm gonna call st player appearance. Right, I'm gonna open up my player appearance, and the first thing I want to set here is that if my player is a male or a female character, right, which is the gender that the player selected. And actually a better way of doing this right now, I'm just gonna put it on the side, is that I am gonna go back to my character creation folder. I'm gonna open up my widget. And let me just open up the widget here. And now I need to identify what variables do I need to save. So first of all, I need to save here the hair, if it's a male or a female model. But it doesn't matter, because if our player is either a male or female, they're always gonna have one. But we need to do that difference right here. And the second one is that we need to save my character, let's say if he's the color and the hair selection, right, and the gender. So we are gonna need here material, gender, and another skeletal mesh. So first one we're gonna need here is the gender, right, our character appearance. Now I'm gonna add another variable, and we're gonna call this let's say the hair, and this is gonna be a static mesh, no static, sorry, skeleton, no, skeletal mesh, object reference. This is gonna be e-gender, right? And the next one we need to add here is the material, right? The color, and we're gonna search here for material, right? I'm gonna put it right there. Great. There's no default values for this. Now, what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna create, let me just think the best way of doing this is I am gonna create here on my, where is my structures here? Game modes, save games. I'm gonna create another save object, and I'm gonna call this type of object called main save. The reason why I'm calling this main save is because on the main save you're gonna have the player appearance, the player stats, and the player items and all that stuff. But then when we need to do we need to play with this data, we just use it on our player, this object, and then in this way I don't have to worry about having tried to put too many datas together, right? So without losing too much time, we need to basically create here a new blueprint. I'm gonna go back to the structure, and no, sorry, I need to go here, save game. I'm gonna call this BP main MMO save, right? Or I'm just gonna call this BP main player save. There you go. Now the main player save, right? Open up, go ahead and open up. It's gonna have a variable, and that variable, it's gonna be basically this save game player appearance. So we're gonna call this player appearance, right? And we're gonna call this save game player appearance. Make sure it's public, and you put explosion spawn because we may need that to be available. Now what we gotta do here, you can close this stuff. I'm gonna go back to the player variables. You're gonna create another variable where I am gonna, what is it, this structure? I'm gonna call this st main player save. Right, main player save. Right, here's very important, guys. Why am I creating so many variables and files? Is because I wanna structure this in the following way. I want to have a main save file that have the save files for my player appearance, my player stats, and so on, and items and so on. And the reason why I wanna do this, it's because when you are in the login page, I just want to load locally your player appearances. But when you go play on the server, I want to bring that player appearances to the server. So I just want to load different things as we are interacting with the game. So now what we're going to do here is that we're going to create a save game file. And then we're going to have here player appearance, right? And I'm going to add another variable, and I'm going to call this save game file. Save game name, right? So I'm going to put this as a string, and this one's going to be also a string, right? Now we have everything ready. We're going to go back to our save objects. I'm going to go back to our main player. And on here, I'm going to add a new variable called it save game info, right? And in here, I'm going to just change the type to st save, where is it? Main player save. That's the structure that I want, right? Compile and save, and that's it. That's all we got to do. It's a little bit complicated, but we're going to get this working right now. Great. So now what I'm going to do here is that we can assume that every time that we open up our player, let's say that part where we edit our player, we have a save file that will have our player informations and all sorts of data and all that stuff. The reason why I'm creating one save file locally rather than rely on the server is that because when you first log into your account, I want to recreate those save files on your machine from the data you have from the server. Because in this way, we can just load your character faster. But of course, any authentication to money and all that, like if you wanna change how much money your player has and all that stuff, it needs to go through the server. But anyway, so to do this, what we are gonna do here is that we have the player appearance, we got the main save game here and everything. Now, what I want to do is I'm gonna go back to my game mode. I'm gonna go to my character creator, and we're gonna open up my BPC creation UI. All right. And in here, I am gonna do the following, because I am gonna assume that you can start it. We're probably gonna create like we're gonna make it possible to edit your character. But right now, I just want to create a new file and then pass that file to my widget. And then inside my widget, I can do whatever I want with that data and then get it back. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a save game object. All right. Look at that. I'm going to create a save game object. And this save game object needs to have a type. Remember that we created the BP main player save. I'm gonna open up this, which is good. And on display, and on here, I think we have also have load save. Yeah, load save game from slot. But what we're looking for here is just that we don't have a slot yet, but we also have a save game, I think, save game to slot, and we just put the save game. But anyway, let's not worry about that. Now I'm gonna create a save game slot, right? And this is gonna be the type of BP main player save game object, and that's gonna be the type I'm gonna be accepting on my character creation main widget load. And what I would like to do here is that when we create this object or we load this object, it already has our player default values. On this case, there's one issue that I forgot, which is basically on our what is it, widget on our games here, save game. We just need to get our player appearances, and we just need to set a value to male. That's fine. Now, one thing that I just had an idea here that I think is not gonna be great is the thing, guys. Let's just refactor this a little bit because I'm trying to make this clean as I can as I go. So I'm gonna open up my save object here, the main player. I'm gonna open up this, and I'm just gonna right click on this. I'm gonna just delete, and I'm just gonna delete those two. Don't worry about that, just delete those files. And I'm gonna delete the BP save player appearance. I think it's gonna be too complicated to have save objects, loading save objects. It's not very performance optimized. So what I'm gonna do here, let me show the screen, is that all I did, I open up my player save game. I just deleted all the variables and I deleted the other save object I created. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up the variables, and I'm gonna basically I'm gonna also delete this main player save here. We don't need that. You can delete this stuff, right? Oh, it just closed my, yeah, I'm just gonna open up this again. Nice. Now I'm gonna call this the player appearance, all right? And now this is gonna change for SD appearance. SD appearance. And that's gonna be public. Make sure that you have, it doesn't need to, and actually this time it does need to be replicated. And the category doesn't matter. We don't need to expose this. Actually, I'll leave it, I'll put the expose and spawn, but if you need to take it out, that's fine. Right, now we should have all the information that we need on this player appearance file. So now if I open up here my character creation UI, if I refresh this, when I created this, I'm gonna do like this. I'm gonna create the file, and I'm gonna pass this file right here. Now you probably ask, okay, but now we need the reference to pass the file. Same thing that we always do. I'm gonna just right click, and we're gonna find the widget, open up the widget. I'm gonna go back to the graph, and here on the graph, we are gonna create a new variable called save game, or save game. Yeah, let's just call save game, that's fine. And this is gonna be BP save, how do we call this again? What is this thing called? BP main player save, that's the one, that's how we call it this. BP main player save. Make sure that's public and you expose that on spawn. I'm gonna move this inside components, but we can change that category after. I'm gonna now right click here and refresh the data. It's gonna ask for a parameter. What save would you like to load? And we're gonna put this file right here. All right. Now, eventually we're gonna have to create a class to load that data in, but right now we just need to, but that's gonna be more when we're trying to edit the character. All right, so now if I press play, nothing gonna change. We just need now, I'm gonna before I wrapped up this video, I just want to make sure that we at least are setting the gender to that variable. All right, and that's very easy to do, super easy. Right, now all you're gonna do here is that we're gonna go back to our event graph and we're gonna find here the gender selection. Right, now when you change the variable here, we set the title, we change the character gender, but also more important, we want to save that information that we change it right here. So we're gonna get the player appearance, right, from that. And now I'm gonna set the member, and the member inside this that we would like to set, if you expand the default category, is the gender. And now all you gotta do here is just I'm just gonna make it, trying to make it less messy. Here I'm just gonna put this one right there. Okay, great. Now what we should happen now is I'm gonna just add a delay of, you don't need to do this, it's just to test, 3 seconds. I'm gonna print that data, I'm gonna print the string, I'm gonna break that data, and I'm gonna put this gender right here. All right, and now if I press play, I should have that gender saved. 3, you see female, if I switch back, it goes back to male. And what's happening there, that's now reading that data back from our save game. And the cool thing about this, guys, is that because we already have our save game, we don't need to worry about reloading that data. We can just tell Unreal Engine to save the whole file, which will have all the information that we need. And then the next time we reload this, we need to basically say, oh, is this like a editing? Yes, and then it loads the data. But this is gonna be more ahead. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This one is a very complex one. There's a lot of data set up. Can be very tiring to follow. So please do take breaks when you follow this stuff. But once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.